welcome to another Smaulgld live stream. Today is September 7th. It is Friday, 2018. And tonight we're going to be talking about gold buffaloes. And they have bounced back in a big way in 2018 after a very poor showing in 2017. Leading me to at least suspect that perhaps the gold buffaloes were on the chopping block at the U.S. Mint. But let's take a look first at the gold and silver markets today. Gold unfortunately fell below $1,200 today. It opened up around $1,200, $1,201, fell all the way down to $1,193, and closed the day for the weekend at $1196.20. Silver is a slightly different story. Silver opened up around $14.09, managed to rally to $14.23, and managed to close above $14.15 at $14.16, up 4 cents on the day. So perhaps silver has bottomed and is trying to regain some of that gold-silver ratio, which is about 84-1. Dow Jones, NASDAQ, S&P all down today, but within the 0.2 to 0.3 range. Not a big day one way or the other on the stock market. The U.S. dollar index, however, remained elevated at 95.41. It opened the day around a little under 95 and rose higher. And that was on the strength of a jobs report. Today was the non-farm payroll. U.S. jobs reported gained 201,000. That's not a lot of jobs reported, but they expected less. They also revised the prior 2 months job reports down by about 50,000 jobs, but the unemployment rate remained at about 3.9%. So that is leading many to believe that the Fed will continue on its rate hike path, probably raising again this month and then one more at the end of the year unless we have some dramatic changes. That'll put the Fed funds rate over 2%, over close to 3%, because they've raised rates now 7-8 times. So it'll be about 2.25% if they do indeed follow through. Not quite normalizing, but still far more than many observers had thought was possible. Take a look at the cryptos before we get into our gold buffalo story today. Cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, which had fell about $1,000 2 days ago, and the culprit was supposedly some story about Goldman Sachs changing their mind on going into crypto trading, and that was reported in Business Insider. As it turns out, a representative for Goldman Sachs said that's not necessarily true. Indeed, that might be fake news. And the Business Insider story said that Goldman Sachs was going to abandon its trading platform and only do storage, which still would be a big deal, I suppose. Also a story that BlackRock and Coinbase may be also trying to promote an ETF. Seems to be only a matter of time until one of these Bitcoin ETFs get approved by the SEC. They did appoint a new commissioner to the SEC, and apparently he is a youngish sort of guy, about 39 years old. I don't remember his name, but he also seems to be crypto friendly, and that may lead the commission, instead of having a deadlocked group of commissioners, it may lead them to eventually approve a Bitcoin ETF. I'm ambivalent on an ETF for Bitcoin. If Bitcoin is supposedly going to be the what's going to drive Bitcoin higher is supposed adoption. Well, given that there's not many Bitcoin and that they've only 21 million will ever be mined, and perhaps 4 or 5 million have been lost forever, then if you lock up a large percentage of those Bitcoin in ETF because of supposed institutional investor demand, you're not going to have much in the way of adoption, because there won't be much of Bitcoin around to adopt. But in any event, so the Bitcoin price stabilized the last day or so. Bitcoin closed, or doesn't close, it trades 24 hours on all the various exchanges. It's close to 6,500 right now. It's pretty much unchanged. Ethereum really got smacked down. It's still down about 5% to about 220. Bitcoin Cash about 505 right now, down about 3%. And Litecoin, which had been close to 70 a couple of days ago, fell to about 52, 53. Right now is down about 2% at 56.32. All right, let's get into our gold buffalo story. Looking at the screen, there's a picture of not the buffalo side, that's the front side. That is the Indian head, and that is the, I would say, a direct replica of the Indian head nickel. They're also called the buffalo nickel. And the Indian head nickel was in place in the United States, circulating, minted from 1913 to 1938. And it was designed by a gentleman called James Earl Fraser. Very iconic design of both the Indian head, and on the flip side, the back is this picture of the American buffalo. And in 2006, the U.S. Mint decided to bring forward a 24-karat gold coin, the American gold buffalo coin, and that's 24 carats, as opposed to the 22-karat American gold eagle coin. Now, the American gold eagle coin has been produced since 1986 in 1/10, 1/4, 1/2, and 1 ounce sizes consistently. And also, that coin, while it was 22 karat, that was a diversion from the circulating gold coins. It used to be 90% gold. The American gold eagle is 91.67% gold. And the reason gold coins were 90% was they were concerned they would wear out if they were 100% gold. So they added a little copper to them to make them a little sturdier. Now, the American gold eagle coins, many may not know this, but up until 1991, they did not have the date on them. They actually had the dates were in Roman numerals. So you had MCMLXXXX V1, and that would be V1 would be 1986, and added another Roman numeral, be 1987. So interesting there. Okay, let's take a look though now at some charts that I prepared for tonight on the American gold buffalo coin. Let's take a look at some of the charts. Now, this coin in particular has never been a big seller. It's always been a somewhat of an anomaly, I would say, mainly because the American gold eagle was introduced in 1986, and that became the coin that was the standard. But as we mentioned, the Krugerrand, we didn't mention this, but the Krugerrand was also a 22 karat gold coin. And before the U.S. Mint introduced the American gold eagle in 1986, the Krugerrand was the premier gold coin. And part of that reason was it was made in South Africa. At the time when it was introduced, South Africa in the 70s was also a gold-producing nation, the #1 gold-producing nation, and the U.S. did not have the ability to buy gold coins. So if you had a Krugerrand in 1971 in the United States, you were essentially holding contraband. And that coin, though, was a 22 karat gold coin. And part of the reason it was 22 karat gold coin was there were people who did exchange them as part of, they obviously minted and held for wealth preservation, but you could exchange them. And international criminals would use Krugerrands. And so they were circulated. They weren't just held as they definitely were store of wealth, but they might have been used a bit as a currency. And I suppose in 1986, that when they introduced the American Gold Eagle, that was part and parcel of Ron Paul's and Lou Lehrman's Gold Commission writings. They were looking into, Reagan had assigned a Gold Commission to determine whether the United States, in order to get out of this ridiculous inflation and stagflation, maybe they needed to go to a gold standard. But by the time they finished the Gold Commission, they voted it down, going back to a gold standard, because the economy had recovered and inflation had been pretty much tamed. But one of the things that came out of it was the recommendation that the U.S. Mint start to produce real gold and silver coins again, and that was the genesis of the 1986 introduction of the American Silver Eagle and the American Gold Eagle. All right, so what happened? Why do we have a American Gold Buffalo? Well, as collectors and investors began to also buy coins minted by the Austrian Mint, the Canadian Mint, the Australian Mint. These coins were 99.99% gold. They were 24 karat gold. And U.S. Mint, I believe, wanted to also issue a coin that wouldn't necessarily be used as a currency. Not that the American Gold Eagle was also used as a currency, but that would be held purely for its gold content, and why not make it 999? And so they use the design of the American, or the Buffalo nickel design. And the first year that it came out, they sold 323,000. And that they haven't sold more than that since. So it was a pretty significant issuance. First time that the U.S. Mint had changed or issued a new gold coin since 1986. So 20 years later, they come out with the American Gold Buffalo, and they sell a respectable 323,000. But keep in mind, selling 323,000 1-ounce gold coins in 2006 was a pretty big event, because, as we'll see in a minute, I have a chart showing the comparison of American Gold Eagles versus American Gold Buffaloes. 2006 was not a big year for gold sales. That was pretty much the Bush years. Things were fine. There wasn't really a whiff of financial crisis yet. Now in 2008, what's interesting is this is the year when they also introduced a 1/10, 1/4, 1/2, and 1 ounce sized American Gold Buffalo coin. And I thought that was going to be the standard going forward, that they would continue to make those coins in those sizes. When the financial crisis hit, Ed Moy, then director of the U.S. Mint, decided they had an obligation to continue to mint American Silver Eagles and American Gold Eagles, that one way they'd be able to maybe somehow keep up with that obligation was because they had no such obligation to continue to mint American Gold Buffaloes, they would cease production. And they did. And they didn't start producing those gold coins again until later on in 2009. Also, I learned the other day, certain common issue 2009 coins like dimes and quarters are actually rare, because the U.S. Mint also, during the financial crisis, did not mint a lot of coins in that particular year. All right, so you can see here that the American Gold Buffalo coin has never been a huge seller. Probably averages around 200,000 a year for the most recent years. But then last year in 2017, they only sold 99,000 of these coins. And that led me to believe, and I didn't really see many other people saying this, but knowing what I know, when Ed Moy, the director of the Mint, back in 2008, essentially sacrificed further production of American Gold Buffaloes, that led me to believe that if the U.S. Mint decided any coin wasn't worth minting what they mint, it would be the American Gold Buffalo. Because as you can see, it's not a big seller. And in 2017, sales were basically cut in half. Now this year, it's been a bit different. Through August, the number you're seeing there, the number is 98,000 sold. And I just saw the numbers updated through September 7th. They sold another 7,500 or 7,000. So they're up right now to 104,500. That's more than they sold last year. So if things carry on at the current pace through September, October, November, December, we might get back to that approximately 180, 200,000 range. And then maybe this gold coin, the American Gold Buffalo, is safe for yet another year. But let's take a look now at the some more charts, what I'm talking about. So here are this is a chart showing American Gold Buffalo sales 2017 versus 2018. And for the first 4 months of the year, American Gold Buffalo sales were horrendous in 2018. They did not come out with a strong 2018 in January. Horrific February. Only 1,000 sold in March. You can see down there on your chart how horrible that is. April, I think it was like 3,000. And that was leading me to believe that after they had only sold 99,000 in 2017, and the first 4 months of 2018 for American Gold Buffaloes looked even worse, I thought to myself, this coin is on life support. Why would the U.S. Mint bother to keep dies and mint a coin if they're going to sell 30, 40, 50,000 a year? It's probably not worth it. They were rethinking it when it only sold 150, 200,000. But then things picked up in May, June, July, and August. And now, through August and early September, the U.S. Mint has sold more American Gold Buffaloes this year than they did in all of last year. So I don't have any inside information. I don't know whether the coin was, is, or was ever on a chopping block to get rid of. I'm just speculating that, and based on the fact that I know they stopped, they don't have the obligation to mint them the way they do the Silver Eagles and the Gold Eagles. They have an obligation to mint them in such quantities. It used to be, they used to have an obligation to mint the American Silver Eagle and the American Gold Eagle in such quantities as to meet public demand. Then they changed it in such quantities as to meet demand as measured by the Treasury Secretary. So there is some obligation to continue to make American Silver Eagles and American Gold Eagles. However, they have no such obligation to make these American Gold Buffalo coins, and that's why I've been on the alert that this coin may be on the chopping block, because in 2008 they decided, in order to clear the decks, to try to keep up with demand for the Gold and Silver Eagles, and given the manpower and the dies and so on of what they had and the available gold, they weren't going to spend it on the American Gold Buffalo. And then I've been thinking, if 2018 sales were worse than 2017, which were the worst ever, that they may just decide this isn't worth the bother. And no one's going to notice it if it goes away. I mean, 40, 50,000 sales where it was headed, not a big deal. But it looks like demand has come back. Maybe the coin is not in any danger of being eliminated. Maybe it never was, but that's just something I've been thinking about. Well, let's take a look at some other charts. So you can see the first, before we move away from this chart, January, February, March, April, bad against a bad year. 2018 versus 2017 was worse versus the worst year ever. But May, June, July, August, significant increases in sales in the American Gold Buffalo coin. Now, let's take a look at August. How does August match up versus, let's say, other Augusts for the sale of American Gold Buffalo coins? And I do these charts for the Silver Eagle, the Gold Eagle. I like to see where a coin sells in a particular month over time. And August was a good month for the American Gold Buffalo. It was the best since 2015, as you can see in your chart. Best since 2015. And 2015 was a big year. 2011 Now you can see in 2009, you don't see anything there. That's not a mistake in my chart. That's because, as I mentioned, Ed Moy, the director of the Mint, I'd love to get him on and discuss, and he has some nice stories about what happened when he was the head of the Mint in 2008 when the financial crisis hit. Well, one of his decisions was not to make the Gold Buffalo. So all those Gold Buffalo sales you saw in 2009, they all happened at the end of the year when they finally were able to feel comfortable with the minting capacity of the U.S. Mint to begin to produce again the Gold Buffalo coins. But unlike in 2008 when they had begun to introduce the 1/10, 1/4, 1/2, and 1 ounce Gold Buffaloes, they never did those again. That's a shame because only 1 year did the American Gold Buffalo come in those fractional sizes. As you can see in August, they made no American Gold Buffalo. So 2018, a very decent month for the American Gold Buffalo. Now let's take another look at, as I mentioned, I like to compare American Gold Eagles versus American Gold Buffaloes. Now remember, the American Gold Eagle is mandated. They have to make them now, not in amounts equal to public demand, but in amounts equal in the discretion of the Treasury Secretary to meet the demand. But this chart, you should see coming up in a minute, will show you the relative amount of 1 ounce American Gold Eagles versus the 1 ounce American Gold Buffaloes. Now, when the coin first came out, the American Gold Buffalo was pretty much a big hit. Now, in 2006, the average investor was not thinking about financial crisis. The average investor was probably somebody who was a collector, had some monetary interest in gold. And when the Gold Buffalo came out in 2006, the person who bought that was probably either a new purchaser, never bought an American Gold Eagle, or was somebody who had bought Gold Eagles over the last 20 years and was interested in the new design and the new 24 carats that this coin had. So the 2006 year actually showed the American Gold Buffalo outselling the 1 ounce American Gold Eagle. And that also was the case, as you can see, in 2007. The American Gold Buffalo outsold the 1 ounce American Gold Eagle. That all changed in 2008 when the financial crisis hit and there was a big rush to gold. And that's where you see the fear investor, the stacking investor, went right into the 22 karat American Gold Eagle. That was the recognized coin. It wasn't the Johnny-come-lately 24 karat Gold Buffalo. It looked like a big nickel. They wanted the coin. If you think about it, the American Gold Eagle takes its design from the double eagle St. Gaudens design that was once the gold $20 gold piece that circulated in the 1920s and 30s. And you can see, if you look at the chart, I've only given you the numbers for the 1 ounce American Gold Eagle, but in 2008, 9, 10, those are big years for gold investment, gold retail investment, and they sold lots of American Gold Eagles. But you can see the American Gold Buffalo never really went past the 230,000 plateau. Its biggest year was its first year, and I attribute that to novelty. So the American Gold Eagle really has been the bullion coin of choice, not the American Gold Buffalo. Interestingly, though, this year, we're closest to a 1-to-1 correspondence than we've ever been. Because so far, through August, these numbers, you can see to the far right, 2018, you've got 136,000 1 ounce American Gold Eagles sold, and 2018, 98,000 American Gold Buffaloes. And through the first 7 days of September, they sold 7,500 1 ounce American Gold Eagles and 7,000 1 ounce American Gold Buffaloes. So it could be that the American Gold Buffalo is either picking up sales because simply it's been around a long time, it's becoming recognized, it's 24 karat, people have no issues in buying the coin. In other words, it's just as good as the American Gold Eagle. So they're almost selling on a one-to-one basis for the first time since 2006, 2007, when they actually sold more. Or it could indicate that 2018 is more like 2006 and 7, that the people buying the coins are more of the collector sort, and they're thinking that these are coins that may be rare, and so they're buying those instead. I'd like to get your thoughts on that. What's driving that one-to-one correspondence? Because it is a big difference. And one other chart I want to show you that I've been keeping for a while now is the total sales of gold at the U.S. Mint. And the way I do that is I take the total sales of American Gold Eagle coins, 1/10, 1/4, 1/2, and 1 ounce American Gold Eagles, add up the ounces, and then I add the total sales of 1 ounce American Gold Buffaloes, and I put it on a chart. And one of the reasons I like this chart is because it shows, even with the additional Buffalo sales, the U.S. Mint does not sell a lot of gold. I mean, 2 million is the most ounces they've ever sold. So it's interesting, but it's not dispositive. In a given, we've seen, for example, Kazakhstan in a given month might add to its reserve 160,000 ounces. That's just 1 month. And over the course of a year, they might add to reserves more than the U.S. Mint sells to all the people in the U.S. and so on. And that's just Kazakhstan. So 2 million ounces, big peak year. It's indicative of retail sales, but it's not a lot. But still, it's a nice chart. It shows you how the Buffaloes do top up some of the sales, but they're generally not a big portion. Other than 2006 and 7, you can see they actually took the lion's share of the overall amount of gold sold at the U.S. Mint in those years. Let's see if we got any other charts for you. I think if I do this live now, I can do this every month. One of the problems I had with doing the live broadcast every night and then also having to cover the U.S. Mint, the Canadian Mint, the Perth Mint was I didn't have the time to do it. But if I can get the charts done and show them to you live and then just show them to you in the resource section of the blog post the next day, I think I can continue to do this each and every month. If you like this type of report, let me know. It's pretty much the same as how I would do it otherwise, other than I'm not writing out a blog post. I'm just showing you the charts and talking through the charts. But I think that's it for the charts. Yep, those are the only charts that I have for tonight. So let's take a look at any of the comments we may have for tonight. All right, Tom is back. Hello, Tom. Good evening, everyone. Jeffrey Gott says, you don't need many Bitcoin in circulation. Yes, since it's divisible by 100. Yes, that's true. But I think it would get unwieldy because... let me know what you think, Jeffrey. I'm going to talk for a couple of minutes and maybe you can write a comment and I'll get to it at the bottom. But let's say there's 21 million Bitcoin, and there really is. I mean, there have been at least a dozen companies that want to do Bitcoin ETFs. And I would imagine if there was investor demand for Bitcoin ETFs, that they could easily lock up 60-70% of the available Bitcoin. Because if you're going to run a fund, you would imagine that they're going to attract significant amount of capital. They're going to have to buy a significant number of Bitcoins. So sure, but let's say they lock up 60-70% of the, I don't know, 17 million. You're not going to have that many left. They're going to be like 10 million Bitcoin, maybe 9 million Bitcoin. Yeah, you can slice it and dice it, but I would think that Bitcoin would lose its ability to be a transaction. Maybe not. I could be wrong. A transactional currency if 60-70% of them are locked up. Now, you can say, well, that's a store of value. Well, you already have gold that you can lock up. And I thought the idea of Bitcoin was that you would use it, not that you would stick it in some cold storage and some vault in Switzerland on pieces of paper. But who knows? I could be wrong. It could eventually lead to higher prices. I don't know. All right. Now, Tom says do another Bitcoin fork and another Bitcoin fork. That doesn't do anything, though. All that does, remember, when you do, maybe you don't know, but when you do a fork, you are creating a new chain, and the new fork, really, they've done a lot of forks of Bitcoin. Remember, Bitcoin Diamond, all these other Bitcoins, other than Bitcoin Cash, and that's only because they got significant amount of people to buy into the fork. The fork doesn't really help because you want to be on the main chain. All these forks aren't really going to help. Now, Jeffrey Gott says, actually, with the Lightning Network, you could even further subdivide into the smallest unit. Well, that's true. That is true. And again, Litecoin benefits from that because chances are it won't be thrown into the ETFs as much. And it'll also be able, it already has 4 times the amount of coins. And then it'll benefit from the Lightning Network. So, I don't know. Tom Manley, 1986 is when I started buying gold. All right. Well, was that because they were introduced, those new coins at the time? I think if I was around in 1986 and I was buying, well, I was around, but I wasn't interested in it. I wasn't aware of it. I probably would have bought those little ones, the 1/10 ounce. And at the time, they were probably, I mean, what was gold back then? $300. I mean, you probably could buy them for $30, $40, $50 a coin. I probably would have bought a roll of them if I was paying attention. Nomadic Giant says hello. Hello, Nomadic Giant. Code 3. I've been buying silver for so long now. However, the Gold Buffalo is a beautiful coin. I will someday buy one. That's how I think. I think that the Gold Buffalo, it really is a beautiful looking coin. I like the idea of a 24 karat coin. I spoke to some dealers and I was kind of surprised. They said that they prefer to deal in the American Gold Eagle. A lot of dealers told me this. And they even more so than the Buffalo or the Canadian Maple. They say that the Canadian Maples, the 24 karat, the Gold Buffalo 24 karat, because they're 24 karat, they're soft and they get damaged so easily just even having them around. And that it's easier for them to deal in the 22 karat gold Eagle, and they're more recognizable, and they'll actually pay more of a premium for them. Now, one of the things I also found out is that all the coins, it's not like if you have a 22 karat gold coin, you don't have an ounce of gold. You do. You just also have a little additional silver and some copper. But the 1 ounce is 1 ounce of pure gold. And that takes into account that it's 91.67% gold, whereas the Buffalo and the Maple Leaf Gold are 99.99, and then the Canadians also make like a 99.999. I think they call 5 nines gold coin. Tom Manley bought 4 of them over the years. Liked having 24 gold coins around, different and rare in certain years. Yeah, they're all relatively rare. I think last year was the rarest year, the 2017. The rarest ones would be the fractionals, the 1/2, 1/4, and 1/10 ounce from 2008. I once saw a whole set of those. They had it in like a box. The 1/2, 1/4, no, 1/10, 1/4, 1/2, and 1 ounce. I think that's a nice gift set. I have a Buffalo. It's beautiful. You know what else I saw once was they have, I didn't know this, I think it was in 2000. The U.S. Mint also did a silver commemorative with exactly the same design. So it was a silver Buffalo, but instead of being in the size of a nickel, it was the size of a silver dollar, and it was a 1 ounce silver coin. I think it was 2001. And it looks just like the American Gold Buffalo, except that it's a 99.9% silver. So that's another, if you're interested in the Buffalo design, that's another nice looking coin. Yeah, Tom Manley says it's soft gold. That's right. Nomadic Giant, I keep mine in plastic. I'm clumsy. Manley said, oh, hold on. Mine were mint purchases. They came in a nice overpriced box as official papers in a capsule. Yeah, I never handled the 24 karat gold. I guess it's soft. I don't know if you get fingerprints on it, but I've handled the Krugerrand and the pre 1934 gold as they were meant to be handled. I think the 24 karat gold you're not supposed to touch. Tom Manley, we Americans don't buy much gold. Am I wrong? No, you're not. I mean, but also it's not just that. When we talk about Indians buying gold and Chinese buying gold, a lot of gold, I have factual data, statistical data, and anecdotal data. Is they don't buy a lot of gold coins either. A lot of Indian gold is jewelry. The data from the World Gold Council shows that jewelry is by far is more. The demand for jewelry is far higher than it's more than twice the amount of bullion. Indians, when you hear they're buying gold, they're buying bangles, they're buying necklaces, they're buying rings, they're buying bracelets. Yeah, they may buy coins. Same with Chinese. Carl Joseph DeMarco is not here tonight. He's usually on every night, or if he is, he's not commenting. When he lived in China, he said a lot of what they bought in China was I wouldn't say weird stuff, but stuff we might consider weird. They were gold items, gold commemoratives, but not standard issue gold eagles or gold pandas as they have there, but things made of gold. And so I'm not sure that the world buys a lot of gold coins. And then real big investors, they buy those kilo bars. They don't buy eagle. They might, but I think what big time investors buy are kilos bars, or even those larger bars that they trade on COMEX. I don't with silver being so cheap. What do you mean, Nomadic Giant says? I don't with silver being so cheap. Tom Manley, thanks for the charts. Very nice. Oh, you're welcome. I used to make them every month, as you know, but making a blog post to go with each one. And one of the problems I had with the gold and silver charts, they were, not that I make any money off of producing videos anyway, but the amount of people that viewed those was always 100, 200. They were never the big view. So I figured I'd focus more on videos that more people were interested in. Nomadic Giant, yes, thanks for all the work, much appreciated. Well, thank you. Tom Manley will admit my last two purchases have been silver. Nomadic Giant, so 17 million currently, 21 is the cap. Yes, but I've read that at least 10, 15, up to 20% of that 17 million has been lost and probably lost forever. So 21 is the cap, but when they get to 21, that will take into account the 2 or 3 or 4 million that they've lost. Now, Tom, you say 1% owns 90% of Bitcoin. True. I saw a chart, and what they had was they showed wallets. Now, you don't know who owns the wallets, but they showed that, I think, if I recall correctly, 3 or 3.1 Bitcoin puts you in the top 10% of holders. And then it moves up from there. But essentially, it is true. It is skewed towards, a lot of people have Bitcoin, but most people, it's skewed towards the top. There are people that have thousands of coins, and they got them when they were basically pennies or dollars. And there are people who have 2 or 3 coins, and they may be in the top 10%, but a lot of people have fractional coins too of Bitcoin. Now, I haven't seen that on Litecoin or the other coins, but there is the concept of the whales in Bitcoin, and they are the ones who control. Now, what will probably happen if there's a Bitcoin ETF is, in order for them to get the size that they need, they're going to buy from the whales, and the whales are going to make a fortune because they're not going to sell all of them at once. They're going to meet them out. So I think that's why everybody's thinking that a Bitcoin ETF would really drive the price higher, because these companies, I know the Winklevoss twins ETF says that they're unlimited to how many they can buy. So theoretically, they can buy every Bitcoin on the planet if someone wants to sell it to them. But given that there would, once one of them gets approved, they're going to, I mean, look at the gold ETFs. There's dozens of them. once one Bitcoin ETF gets approved in the US, there's going to be half a dozen or a dozen more. And that's going to create demand because let's say you open one and you don't have unlimited demand, but you say it's got to be 100 million or 200 million. They have a cap or whatever. You're going to go out as the fund ETF and you're going to buy as many as you can to meet demand. And you're not going to be able to scrounge that up from 0.021364 Bitcoin from 10,000 people. You're going to get them from the ETF, the big whale holders who are going to sell those. So I would think, and I hadn't really thought of it this way. I always think, well, what's the big deal? Why do people want to care about an ETF? Why does the price drop when there's no ETF? But actually, the more I think about it, if there ever is an approval of an ETF, it might be off to the races. You know, it just might be a big deal because they're going to have to buy Bitcoin, and where they're going to get it from, there's only going to be available in the next year or so. Even if they're not, even if they get to 21 million, there's only going to be 15, 17, 18 million to buy. Yeah, Nomadic Giant says, I guess there's 20 used holders. I think that's right. I saw the chart. One of the Smaulgld subscribers sent it to me. I got to see if I can find it. It was on Twitter. I looked at it, and it is interesting. Only like 5 or 7 or 8 or 10 Bitcoin gets you in the top 5%. But then the holdings, I didn't look at it from the, that gets you in the top percent, but there are a lot of, there's a few people who own thousands and tens of thousands, or a few wallets that own tens of thousands of coins. And it's possible that some of those wallets are owned by the same person. Who knows? Tom Mailer, was not smart to buy the fractional buffaloes. I was unaware that they were even making them at the time. So I would have loved to have had those. Very nice looking. I didn't even know they had them. Yeah, take a look. Just do a Google search. They're little tiny. I think the one that's closest to a nickel would probably be a quarter ounce. The half ounce would be a little bigger. But I did see them once in a coin shop. They had all of them, the tenth, a quarter, half, and what else? All right, let's see. The wife prefers jewelry. That's a fact. Of course. Of course. I mean, it's usable. It's attractive looking. People who stack, it's almost like I don't see the attraction to that, because if you're stacking just for monetary, there's an argument you can stack ETF. I mean, why have silver or gold unless you can wear it or see it? Now, I understand why people have it, but for most people, it's the reason silver and gold are attractive is because of the properties, not just because they're collecting dust in a vault somewhere. Mike Maloney says Bullion jewelry. Yeah, some of them, they do. They sell jewelry, and the idea is it's wearable wealth. That makes sense. Everyone I know that got in early lost a lot when it was pennies. You're right. One person can have multiple wallets, says Nomadic Giant. All right. Well, just wanted to update you on the gold buffaloes. I've accumulated the charts on the Perth Mint gold and the Perth Mint silver. I'll get those out. Maybe tomorrow night we'll do a Perth Mint gold or silver live stream. I hadn't done the Canadian Mint for a while, and there was a reason for it. First of all, they only produced quarterly reports, and then they produced those 2 months after the quarter ended, so they weren't really relevant to what was going on in the market today. But then they got caught up in this whole, I don't know if you guys remember this, but they were issuing these coins that had a stamped face value, and then they had a certain amount of silver in them. So, for example, they would issue, I'm trying to remember what they were like. It caused them a huge accounting issue. They would issue it was like a $20 Canadian coin. And it would have in it, I don't know, maybe $6 worth of silver in it. But it seemed attractive at the time was the coin was still worth $20. So given a choice to buy or to take your American dollars and buy $20 worth of Canadian paper or $20 in just clad coinage, or a $20 silver coin with about $6, $7 worth of silver in it, you might as well buy the $20 because it still had the face value stamped on it. But it didn't go over pretty well because merchants didn't accept the coins. Weird. They wouldn't accept the coins. And then when people realized, well, it says $20 on it, but the fact that it has $6 worth of silver in it isn't worth anything to me because unless the price of silver triples, it's still only $20. So why do I have this fancy coin? I might as well just turn it in and get $20 for it. A lot of people thought that way. They brought them to the banks in Canada. They turned in their $20, and because they had a rule that they would accept them because it's the Canadian Mint and their legal tender, that they would have to account for them. But remember, they sold them as $20, but they booked it as being worth 3 times the price of silver. So they got caught up in a kind of an accounting issue, and that caused them to delay and restate the reports. And then I realized I'm not covering this anyway, and it's not timely. But I think now that they've gotten past and the numbers are, that was like over 2 years ago, now that they're reporting again probably on a normalized basis and they're not issuing those coins and they're only issuing the Canadian gold maple leafs and the Canadian silver for the bullion coins, that I might be able to start producing those charts again in the live stream format. I'll make the charts, go through them for you, and so on. All right, let's see if any other comments since that little thing there. Nope. Nomadic, meaning they lost their keys. If it wasn't clear, you're right. There's a lot of Bitcoin that is lost. Yeah, you could have either lost your keys. That's it. You lose your keys, no matter how you do it. Either they were on your computer and you threw the computer away, or you lost your keys, or who knows how you lose Bitcoin in the different ways. But they say a lot of it was lost in the beginning because they were worth pennies. And I think the first Bitcoin purchase, they used 20,000 Bitcoins to buy a pizza. And I would imagine a lot of people had 20, 30, 50,000 Bitcoin in the beginning. A lot of people, they were offering, not back then, but I remember people used to offer me Bitcoin, like dozens of them in 2011 or 12. I was like, what would I want it for? I never took it. So I'm sure there's a lot of that. And imagine if I had taken it, I would have probably lost it or not known what it was or how to hold it, and I would have lost it. So I'm sure a lot of people were in that situation, especially in the beginning. So, all right. Well, we'll see you again tomorrow night. Probably do the Perth Mint, if that makes sense for you guys. And if you want to buy your Smaulgld mug, it does help out Smaulgld. I ship them directly from the Smaulgld headquarters, and they're good to have. Mugs are real money. You can get the Smaulgld Classic and Super Classic mugs. I will put a Smaulgld Game Changer eraser in and a personal note. If you want the Smaulgld To Go mug or the Smaulgld Espresso mug, you can order them directly from the manufacturer and check out the other Smaulgld products. And also, please consider becoming a Smaulgld patron. I think you've got a nice group of dozen who send me a few dollars every month. I do appreciate that. And also, I can send you a mug to Mexico. I do ship it. I've shipped to Mexico. I've shipped to Canada. It's not that much more to ship there. You may have to pay duty. I haven't heard of anybody having to pay a duty because I send them insured at the $50 insured. So I could probably get you one there for $25, $24, whatever it is. The Smaulgld Super Classic mug. PM. All right. Let's see what else. That's about it. So we will see you guys tomorrow night. Thanks for joining. Thanks for your comments. And remember, we do this each and every night at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And then the video is up on YouTube immediately thereafter. As soon as I hit finish, it uploads to YouTube. You can watch what you missed. It's also, I upload it manually to BitChute, to minds.com, to BitTube, bit.tube, to Steemit, and then I tweet it. I put it on Gab, put it on Facebook, and Google+. So please check it out there. Thanks a lot.